I'm Tracy Sabol. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, Iran and Israel. New fears of an all-out regional war in the Middle East. How the White House is responding. Red lights. A closer look at bad news for the economy in the United States and around the world. A new leader. The Vatican unveils its choice as the replacement for Cardinal Sean O'Malley in the Archdiocese of Boston. And snow angels. How the Vatican is honoring one of the oldest churches in Rome and its remarkable history. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the feast of the dedication of the Basilica of St. Mary Major. Our top story tonight, President Joe Biden returns to the White House from Delaware and heads straight to the Situation Room to confer with his national security team. The meeting comes amid fears of an all-out regional war in the Mideast, following the killings last week of a senior Hezbollah commander in Lebanon and Hamas's top political leader in Iran. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
That's right, Tracy. Tonight, the U.S. preparing for a possible Iranian retaliation. Now, the Biden administration also warning today Iran should not take further action, adding that every time you have a cycle of escalation, you have the risk of parties miscalculating and taking actions that can get out of hand.
Arriving on Marine One, President Joe Biden and the First Lady head past reporters on their way back to the White House. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris consulting with the White House National Security Team. Iran has vowed to respond with power and decisiveness. A wider war could involve Israel and the United States against Iran and armed groups across the Middle East. And at the U.S. State Department, this assessment.
We are at a critical moment for the region, and it is important that all parties take steps over the coming days to refrain from escalation and calm tensions.
As for when Iran could strike?
So I can't speak to what may or may not happen. That is a decision for Iran to make. We have been sending consistent messages through our diplomatic engagements, encouraging people to communicate to the government of Iran that escalation is not in their interest.
Biden also speaking today with King Abdullah II of Jordan, a close Western ally. The country's foreign minister making a rare visit to Iran over the weekend.
Mittlerweile sind wir bei 2.100.
And with concerns over escalation, a government spokesman in Germany confirms that nation asked its citizens to immediately evacuate from Lebanon, fearing a wider war. Other countries issued similar warnings, leading to a backlog at the airport in Beirut.
And today I've been waiting since 10 hours for my flight. That has been delayed as well. Delayed, I'm sorry.
As the tensions rise, so does the death toll in Gaza. In Gaza City, dozens of bodies pulled from the rubble of two schools hit by Israeli strikes on Sunday. Israel's military described them as Hamas command centers. And now, nearly 10 months of war in Gaza, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns that anyone who harms Israel will be held accountable and pay a very heavy price. Netanyahu spoke Sunday at a state memorial ceremony in Jerusalem.
Now, regarding that conversation with the King of Jordan, the White House says President Biden and the King discussed their efforts to de-escalate regional tensions. They're still calling for an immediate ceasefire and hostage release deal. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Okay, thank you, Owen. All right, let's go now to Dr. Farhad Razai with the Philos Project. Dr. Razai, always good to see you. The situation in the Middle East is reaching a fever pitch as we wait and watch to see what happens next. But there seems to be no doubt that Iran will retaliate against Israel. In fact, Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson said today that Iran will, in part, quote, definitely take serious deterrent action with power and decisiveness. However, the country also said that it's not looking to escalate regional tensions. Could you help us unpack this?
Well, first of all, I need to say that there are many indications that the regime is preparing for war. That's for sure. But there are also speculations about when they are going to start and how the war is going to be. The point is that, from my understanding, the final decision with regards to entering the war has not been made by the leadership in Tehran. Ayatollah Khamenei and the senior officials in the Revolutionary Guards probably has not made their final decisions. What they want is that they want to take action so that they will restore deterrence in the sense that Israel will not attack them. Israel will not carry out another operation inside the country. But at the same time, they want that this attack in a manner that would not lead to a full escalation conflict. So this is a big dilemma for the regime. And now I think they are in a very big predicament that how to carry out this attack that would not lead to a full-scale conflict. Once again, I need to say that probably the final decision with regards to entering the war with Israel has not been made because the regime wants to make sure that this action will not result in a full-scale conflict.
Well, according to a report by the Wall Street Journal, Iran is telling pilots to avoid its airspace, and it's also warning of GPS disruptions all over the country. So what do you think that signals, and should we be concerned about this?
Well, in the face of it, it signals that they are preparing for war. But the reality is that, as I mentioned, the regime has not made its final decision. Let's not forget that this has been the regime's tactic for a long time. They want us to believe that they are preparing for war. But look, this is part of the regime's chicken game. They want to know that whether Israel, how prepared Israel is, and what would be the reaction of the United States. I think the reaction of the United States matters the most here. I have observed that the United States sent Iranians a message through third parties. This is a wrong way of sending message. The United States, the Biden administration, has to send them a direct and public message and put them on notice that if they start war with Israel, they will face a severe response from the United States.
Yeah, and we do know the United States has already deployed warships and fighter jets that is, to the region to assist Israel. Do you think, Dr. Rezai, at this point, I mean, is there a way to de-escalate the situation? Can it happen?
Well, of course, there are ways to de-escalate. And one way is for the United States to send a strong message to the regime in Tehran. As far as I remember, by studying the Islamic regime's foreign policy, the only way that they can back off is just by showing them resolve. That's the only way that they can back off. And unfortunately, by the current Biden administration policies, it just emboldens them and they will not back down.
Well, Dr. Rezai, we have to leave it right there. Thank you so much for weighing in. Always appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Congress is on a long break. Still, pressing issues are coming to the surface. Lawmakers continue to monitor the latest developments in the Middle East, while others are weighing in on the recent prisoner exchange with Russia. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us now with the latest. Eric.
Good evening, Tracy. Yes, let's start with the recent U.S. prisoner swap with Russia. It's the largest since the U.S. Cold War era. Now, lawmakers are continuing to react after Moscow released American journalist Evan Gershowitz and fellow American Paul Whelan.
We've got a cycle here. You have trumped up charges against Americans. You accuse them of things they didn't do. You put them in jail, and you only release them when we have to release Russian spies and killers. Yeah, this cycle needs to stop.
Meanwhile, Democrats, well, they're praising the efforts of the Biden administration to bring Americans home. And they're also touting what they claim are successes down at the southern border, saying that the numbers of those crossing continue to fall. Republicans say that millions have already crossed into the country illegally. And according to a new House Judiciary Committee report, since January 2021, 99 potential terrorists have been released into the United States. Still, Democrats are praising Vice President Kamala Harris for what they say is a big turnaround at the border.
Kamala Harris was given an important but discreet task. She was able to dramatically reduce migration from those countries. And again, apples to apples, crossings at the southwest border are lower today than they were at the end of the Trump administration.
Lawmakers are also speaking out about Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin revoking the plea deal for an alleged 9/11 mastermind, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and two others. Republican Senator Mitch McConnell and Senator Tom Cotton issued a joint statement saying in part, quote, "We are glad that Secretary Austin came to his senses, heeding our warning and deciding to take the concerns of 9/11 victims and families seriously." They add that the Biden-Harris administration should never consider a plea deal with terrorists, and American leaders, including the commander-in-chief, need to show strength and not weakness. Tracy?
All right. Thank you, Eric, for that report. Well, a federal judge says Google is exploiting its search dominance to squash competition, handing the internet giant a major loss. Today's ruling said Google's search engine has been illegally exploiting its dominance to crush competition and to stifle innovation. The major decision could shake up the internet and hamper one of the world's best-known companies. The ruling comes 2 months after closing arguments. It is considered the biggest antitrust showdown in a quarter century. Stocks stumbled on Wall Street today around the world as fears grow about a slowing U.S. economy and possible recession. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped by 1,000 points today. This as Japan's stocks plunged by 12.4%, their worst day since 1987. This follows the news that U.S. employers slowed hiring last month. The Federal Reserve has kept interest rates high to combat inflation. However, the latest events could lead to a cut. For more, let's go to Jeffrey Campbell, professor of economics at the University of Notre Dame. Professor, good to be with you today. So for those who don't really follow the stock market, explain to us why the jobs numbers is triggering this kind of fallout.
Well, jobs numbers in general are going to trigger a reevaluation of the stock market because stocks pay off when the economy is good. And so if there's any indication that the economy is faltering, people are going to begin thinking that corporate profits are going to be lower, and therefore stock payouts are going to be lower. Now, that's the way it works in terms of direction. But these job numbers that we've gotten on Friday are really it's fairly modest news compared to the kind of stock market movements we've seen today, especially in Japan.
Yeah, we mentioned the Nikkei had its worst day since 1987. When was the last time we saw this kind of activity on Wall Street, though?
Oh, same time, about 1987. Well, outside of COVID, that is. But this sort of activity on Wall Street, up or down 2 or 3%, is kind of common for the market. 3% is a little bit on the high side in either direction, but it's not exceptional. The stock market goes through periods of what we call high volatility.
Yeah, and no doubt, though, a lot of people are probably concerned about their 401ks or other investments. What advice would you give them?
Stand pat for now. Right now, what we know in economics is that big changes in the stock market follow big changes. What we can't predict is the sign of those changes. So we saw that it fell 3% today. It could rise or fall again 3% tomorrow. So for the next week or so, we're going to be going through some rough riding. Once that's done, take a moment, and the market finds its new normal. Take a moment and assess whether that's the kind of risk you want to live with. If you're an older person, looking to that 401k as your primary source of income, maybe you should shift it into bonds. If you're a younger person and you've got your whole working life ahead of you, feels normal to take that risk.
We have a little less than a minute left, but a lot of talk about recession now. Should we be worried about it?
I don't really believe so. No more than we were 3 months ago, say. The jobs numbers, the latest jobs numbers haven't been great, but they haven't been terrible. My favorite recession indicator is the Chicago Fed's National Activity Index, and it's been hovering around the point where it says the economy is fragile, but not in recession. And that's that's my assessment, is that a good strike by geopolitical risk or economic downturn elsewhere could put us into recession, but that's not a done deal at this point. We could make it through the next 6 months just fine. Okay, so what I'm hearing from you, Professor, is don't panic, at least not now. That's what I always say, yes. Okay, thank you so much for weighing in. We appreciate it. God bless. Thank you, Tracy. Well, Hurricane Debbie made landfall as a Category 1 storm this morning in Florida's Big Bend area. Now, a tropical storm, it is expected to unleash record-setting rains from Florida
To the southeast coast, the National Hurricane Center has stated this could trigger a catastrophic flooding and life-threatening storm surge. Thousands of Florida residents already are without power. Governor Ron DeSantis says 17,000 electricians are at work trying to restore it. The Prime Minister of Bangladesh has resigned and fled the country. It follows weeks of protests that started out peacefully but grew into a call for an end to the prime minister's authoritarian rule. Students have been demanding an end to a controversial quota system. The demonstrations turned violent when the prime minister deployed police and paramilitary forces against the protesters. The army chief announced the resignation this morning and said an interim government would be formed. Dad, we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including change in leadership. Pope Francis appoints a new head for the Archdiocese of Boston following the retirement of one of his closest allies. And the Holy Father tells the faithful why material possessions will not lead to lasting happiness. Welcome back. A main archdiocese in the United States is set to welcome a new leader. Pope Francis says Providence Bishop Richard Henning will lead the Archdiocese of Boston. He replaces Cardinal Sean O'Malley, who is retiring. Bishop Henning says that he is excited for the opportunity.
I'm very grateful to Almighty God for the abundance of life made possible by His love and His grace, and I invoke the Lord's help as I look forward to beginning this new ministry. I'm also grateful to our Holy Father for his confidence in the gift of this call to shepherd the extraordinary Church of Boston.
Bishop Henning served the Diocese of Providence for the past year. He'll be installed as Archbishop of Boston on October 31st. Cardinal O'Malley is retiring after turning 80 years old. He served the Archdiocese of Boston for more than 20 years and was a close ally of Pope Francis. The world's largest fraternal organization is holding its annual convention this week in Canada. The Knights of Columbus is meeting in Quebec for its 142nd Supreme Convention. This year's theme is on mission. The agenda includes an awards ceremony, breakout sessions, and the annual report from Supreme Knight Patrick Kelly. And for analysis, we turn now to Dr. Matthew Bunson, Vice President and Editorial Director for EWTN News, and he is in Quebec for EWTN's coverage. Matthew, great to have you back as always. As mentioned, this is an annual conference this year. The Knights are meeting in Quebec. What's the significance of that?
Yeah, well, the Knights in some ways are coming back to Quebec. The founder of the Knights of Columbus, Blessed Father Michael McGivney, studied for the priesthood here in Quebec. The presence of the Knights in Canada dates all the way back, I think, to 1897. There are about 200,000 members. So this is a statement in some ways on the part of the Knights of Columbus of the importance of Canada, but also going back also to the roots of Catholicism in many ways in North America. Quebec City is one of those venerable places of Catholicism. So the Knights are making a point by being here, but then also they're stressing the international dimensions of the order. And certainly with the number of prelates, I think from about 8 different countries, there is very much an international flavor to the Knights of Columbus today. And that's something that they can really highlight by being here in Canada.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about that. The focus on international growth is connected to the work of the Knights globally. What are they discussing about the crises that we are seeing in the world today?
Yeah, well, Patrick Kelly, the Supreme Knight of the Knights of Columbus, has spoken quite a bit, especially in recent years, about the importance of the Knights in caring for people all over the world, being faithful to Blessed Michael McGivney's vision for the founding of the Knights of Columbus. When we look at what the Knights are doing right now, all eyes turn once again to Ukraine, where the Knights have been at work there really since the Russian invasion so many years ago now. The Knights are investing millions of dollars to help Ukrainian relief, to deal with refugees, to provide care packages. But the Knights are also very active elsewhere in the world. I think, for example, of their work in the Philippines to support anti-trafficking, as well as the presence of the Knights in places like the Philippines and Cuba. So we can't underestimate, again, the importance of the international dimension of the Knights of Columbus. But again, remaining very faithful to the original vision of Michael McGivney for the formation of men caring for widows and orphans, promoting families, and especially defending the dignity of the human person in the face of so many challenges that we have today in the modern world.
Yeah, Matthew, as we know, the Knights' focus is also on evangelization and faith formation. What are you hearing about their initiatives in that regard?
Yeah, quite a few. We have, for example, their ongoing program of Into the Breach that we'll be hearing a lot more of in the next couple of days, as well as the newer program called CORE. What this is intended to do is to help form Catholic men and bringing them closer to Christ, to helping evangelize the culture, but also to evangelize the families. As they say, that where there is a need, there is a night. But this is not an NGO. This is an apostolate that is devoted to the care of the human person in all of its dimensions. And the more formed the Knights are, the better they will be able to care, and the more present they will be to their families and to the wider world.
And Matthew, quickly before I let you go, I'd love to get your thoughts on the retirement of Cardinal O'Malley from Boston.
Yeah, this is a fairly significant moment in the modern life of the Catholic Church, especially in the United States. Cardinal O'Malley, for 2 decades, was a stalwart figure in the Church's work against the sexual abuse crisis. He was sent to Boston under terrible circumstances in 2003 to deal with that crisis, especially in the wake of the clergy sexual abuse crisis revelations that came about in the early 2000s. He had already been dealing with the sexual abuse crisis in his previous postings. He went on, of course, to become president of the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors, and a real powerful voice for dealing with clergy sexual abuse. We saw that just weeks ago when he published a public letter asking that the artwork of Marco Rupnik, the now very controversial mosaicist, be removed. So he has not gone quietly, as they say. He continues to push for the promotion of safeguards in the Church. And I think he'll be remembered as one of those key prelates at a very difficult time for the Church in the United States and around the world.
And Dr. Matthew Bunson, thank you. Always great to be with you. God bless.
Good to be with you. Take care.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, snow in the summer. How Our Lady revealed a miracle with a twist in the weather. We have a report from Rome. Pope Francis reminds the faithful that material objects do not bring lasting happiness.
Tutti possono avere qualcosa, non dimenticare quello.
In his Sunday address at the Vatican, the Holy Father says a life lived to its fullest is done primarily through love. Pope Francis also encourages us to take the path of charity because sharing with others can lead to gratitude and generosity, and those traits are essential for the faithful to draw closer to God. Finally today, the faithful of Rome and pilgrims commemorate Our Lady of the Snows at the Marian Basilica of St. Mary Major. Catholic News Agency journalist Christina Malaire has more.
St. Mary Major is widely believed to be the most important church dedicated to Mary in Western Christendom. Under the papal altar rest 5 pieces of sycamore from the manger in Bethlehem, along with the cloths in which tradition holds Jesus' small body was wrapped. This has earned the basilica another name, St. Mary of the Crib. But one of the most amazing aspects of this church is the miracle that took place in the 4th century. In the year 352, during the pontificate of Pope Liberius, a pious and wealthy Roman couple without heirs made a vow to donate all their earthly possessions to the church and to the Virgin Mary.
So they asked for a miracle to Our Lady, and during a night, Our Lady appeared in a dream to John, that was the name of the husband, of the male, and she told him that the day before in the morning, in the place of the city of Rome, where they could spot the presence of the snow, they had to build a new church dedicated to Our Lady. That's exactly what happened.
That prompted people to also call the basilica Our Lady of Snows. The present church was built under Pope Celestine I in the next century. He consecrated it on August the 5th, 434, to the Virgin Mary, after the Council of Ephesus affirmed Mary as Mother of God.
What was true 1700 years ago is still true today, the importance of the Blessed Virgin Mary in the history of the Church and in the history of salvation. Because when there are hardships, when there are difficulties, when there are trials, crosses, big problems, going to Mary, asking for her help, is still what the true believer do even today.
To this day, the legend is still commemorated with a shower of white rose petals from the ceiling dome after the celebration of the Mass and second Vespers of the feast. The Holy Father has always had a special affection for the Marian icon of Salus Populi Romani in the Basilica.
Frequently was a pilgrim to St. Mary Major even before becoming Pope, but after becoming Pope, as everybody knows, he goes to the Basilica before and after every trip, even inside Italy, not only distant trips like in Asia, Africa, but also every trip. He goes before and after to pray to entrust this trip to the Blessed Virgin Mary and to take back the fruits of the trip to the Blessed Virgin Mary after his journey.
In Rome, Christina Miliare, EWTN News Nightly.
We thank her and we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sabol. Good night and God bless.